Welcome to this week's edition of Red Devil Roundup, and today we are looking at wrestling here at Owensboro High School. I've got my first wrestler up. I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Corey Gail Chambers. I am a third-year runner-up in wrestling, and I am currently in high school still.
What year are you in school?
I am a sophomore.
Sophomore in school. I guess the big question, why did you get involved in wrestling? You know, it's still a fairly new sport, at least in this area. Why did you decide you want to get involved?
I wanted to work out more. I wanted to do something besides just go home and do normal stuff. I wanted to get more of an activity done.
Well, why wrestling? I mean, you could have done any sport. Why wrestling?
It seemed more aggressive and fun. It seemed more competitive, and I love competitive sports.
Well, I've got to ask the obvious question. You know, most wrestlers, you'd think of a guy. Obviously, you're a girl. What's that like, you know, being one of the only girls that are, you know, involved in this sport, really even in this state?
Currently, right now, I'm the only girl in this county region still, in the last couple of years. For a girl, it's more hard, especially when you have to cut weight, but you know how girls are, they like to cut the calories anyway. Being a girl, it's difficult. Guys stare, but look at you funny and ask, is she a girl wrestler or is she just coming here to watch? I come out here just as hard as them, maybe even harder if I have to.
Sure. I mean, what's that like, you know, wrestling guys? I mean, on an everyday basis.
It's easy and it's really competitive if they don't underestimate you.
Sure. Kind of talk about wrestling in general. I mean, what does it take to be a good wrestler for those at home that, you know, might not know a lot about wrestling?
It takes a lot of, how do you put it, endurance, integrity. You have to be physically and mentally prepared for it, for anything that happens, because this is the hardest sport you'll ever come to meet.
How do you practice wrestling? You know, baseball people might know, basketball, you shoot hoops. You know, how do you practice wrestling?
Home-wise, it's not really a good thing to practice at home unless you're just doing counteractive moves, but mostly you just want to get your body into shape before you want to work out as much as you can, work out your lungs, your arms, whatever you can that you know you need to work on. Basically, don't practice with someone else if they're not experienced or anything. I practice at home like any other person would from the team experienced. I go home, practice what I need to know in my own stance by myself.
Is it like, I know sometimes like with boxing, you kind of go through progressions maybe before is it a match, I guess, a wrestling match? Is that similar with wrestling? Do you kind of go through what you want to do in your head with the match, or how does that work for you?
It kind of goes with how the other competitor reacts to what you do. Either you make a move, you react, or you make a move and they react. It's kind of counteracting the moves every single time.
How's the team going to look this year? Again, still a fairly new sport here at Owensboro. Obviously, we're lucky to have another sport here at Owensboro High School, but how are we going to look this year?
We're going to kick some butt this year. We're going to do everything that we can just to get to state like we do every year.
Sure. Is there anything else that you'd want to add about the wrestling team this year?
Well, being a girl, I really would like more females to be out here with me. I've recently just made captain, working so hard, and I really would like it if more females would be introduced to this sport, because if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Well, there you have it. Coming up right after the break, we'll hear from another wrestler here at Owensboro High School. And we're back here on Red Devil Roundup previewing the boys wrestling team here at Owensboro High School. I've got another wrestler up. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Hunter Schaefer. I'm a third-year wrestler, and I'm a junior this year, so I'm looking forward to making the most out of my last 2 years.
You said you were third-year wrestling. Kind of talk about what you've seen change from your first year to now.
Coach is definitely taking it a lot harder on us. He's not really giving us the first-year wrestler excuse anymore. He's definitely pushing us to be our best. So,
how have you grown over the past couple of years, you know, from your first year to your third year? Not just yourself, but as a team.
I think a lot of times when you're first starting out, it's really technical, it's really confusing, and you get messed up. But as you go along, it becomes like second nature, and it really helps you improve so much faster in your later years.
What does it take to be a good wrestler? I mean, obviously endurance is big, you know, but it's not just a matter of going out there and wrestling each other. I know there's a lot of technique that goes on behind this.
Yeah, Coach always encourages us, what we don't learn at practice, to go home, look up videos, on our MacBooks and everything, and really put in time at home, running, push-ups, crunches, eating right. And you have to have a lot of dedication, because if you're not dedicated, you won't make it very far.
How does Owensboro look compared to the other teams here in the city?
At first, it was kind of, pale in comparison, but I think we're really starting to step it up, and, Davis County is kind of with us right now, and we're hoping to get up there with Apollo and maybe even further than that as we go along.
Is this something that, the longer you have the team, usually the better you are, because obviously you've got wrestlers starting at a younger age?
Yeah, because, Coach can't be everywhere, and a lot of times it's really useful when you can have students helping students and Coach helping everybody. It kind of makes the process a little easier.
Sure. Well, Hunter, is there anything else that you want to let people know at home? Obviously, support's always appreciated at wrestling matches.
Yeah, we have, I think, 4 home matches this year, so I'm hoping that it'll be on the announcements and everything, the specific dates, and we can have a lot of OHS students come out and support us.
Well, there you have it. Next up, OHS wrestling coach. And we're back here on Red Devil Roundup looking at a pretty fairly new sport here at Owensboro High School. I'll go ahead and let the wrestling coach introduce himself.
My name's Kenny Stone, wrestling coach here at Owensboro High School, 3rd year. Just started the program back up after 40-some years of being out of business. We're back in.
Why start it back up? Why get wrestling back at Owensboro High School?
Well, I started the program 13 years ago at Apollo because my son was there, and did that for 10 years and was ready to kind of just take a break for a while. And then Owensboro called me and said, would you come and start the program here? And so that's a good challenge. And so we started from scratch, and this is our 3rd year now, bringing it back.
It's come a long way. Talk about where you started out practicing. Now you've got your own wrestling room, which I don't think most people even know exists at the high school. Just kind of talk about the evolution of the program.
Yeah, when we first started, we had the mat up in the top of the gym, and the dancers, the dance team up there, cheerleaders, and of course total distraction for wrestlers. But we were grateful for that, because at least we could put the mat down and wrestle and practice. A little bit of distraction. But we had part of this room when it was still a locker room last year, but just so thankful for our principal and all the administrators that got behind it. They came in and had the room cleared out completely, put our mat down in here, padded the walls, so we're good to go here. We've got a new competition mat that we keep in the new gym, so that when teams come here, we'll use this mat and that mat. I've got a black one and a red one. And now that we have this room, it's totally dedicated to wrestling, and we don't have to share it with anybody. It's great. We love it.
How do you build a wrestling program at a school?
It's really not a hard sport to start. The main thing is having space to practice, as just about every sport is, encountering that. But all we need is a mat. If you have a mat, and you just could start with one guy, it's like tennis or swimming or some of the sports like that. Although it's a team sport, it's also an individual sport. So when we first started, it was just one guy. And then it just kind of blossomed from there to what you see now. We've got about 30 guys on the roster.
With wrestling here at Owensboro High School, I know we have a history of success at sports here. I'm sure you're well aware of. How do you see them stacking up this year? Obviously, improvement's always the key. What are the long-term goals for this season?
Well, obviously, there are 14 weight classes. We'd like to get every weight class, somebody in every weight class, into the state wrestling tournament. In Kentucky, the way you do it, if you finish in the top 4 of your weight class, you advance to the state tournament. We just got moved to Region 2 this year. We've been competing in Region 1 for 12 years. Now we're in Region 2, all new schools, some of whom we've seen before in the past. We never wrestled in regional competition. And so how we're going to stack up as a team, I have no idea, because I don't know any of the other teams that well. But we are young, and we're getting a lot of 7th and 8th graders coming in who are probably going to be tested early. It's going to be a little rough for them. But if they will stick with it, by the time they're high school seniors, with 6 years experience, they'll be making it to state tournament. The last year that Owensboro had wrestling was 1977, and they had a state champion, Lance Moorman. So the bar is high, and we're going to have to reach it. But it's going to be a lofty goal. It's going to be a long road for us, but we're going to stick with it and stay with these young guys and bring them up.
How do you get the team better this year? What goes into practice? A lot of people, they're watching basketball, football, they understand that. A lot of people don't understand wrestling. How do you get better in wrestling?
Wrestling is probably the first sport that everybody participated in. They just didn't know it. When they were rolling around the floor as a little kid, they were wrestling. They weren't playing basketball. They weren't even playing football. And what I'm finding out is kids that have done that all their life, it's more about teaching them what not to do than what to do. They already know how to jump on each other and how to take each other down, but you can't lock hands in the down position. You know, you can't punch, bite, kick, any of that kind of thing. And the referees are always there to make sure nobody gets injured. You can't take somebody's arm behind their back beyond 90 degrees. It's really just learning technique of how to properly practice and how to do certain moves that maybe they already knew how to do, just make sure they do them correctly. Some they've never done before, and to be honest with you, when you have a 7th or 8th grader come in first year, you're starting from scratch. You know, it's like starting with a piece of granite and you got to try to chisel something out. But they work hard. I mean, they love it. They're dedicated to the sport, and it's hot in here. As you can tell, we turn the heat up. They have to cut weight. No other sport requires that. It's a sport of dedication. You just got to be dedicated to it. Maybe even more than the others because of the weight loss and hot practice and not a lot of glory in it. You know, you do it for yourself. And these guys, I'm really proud of every one of them for doing it.
If people want to come out this season, where do you guys wrestle? When do you kick off the season?
Our first match this year, we have a takedown tournament coming up. That's kind of a preseason thing on the 16th down at Trigg County in Cadiz, Kentucky. But our first actual competition this year is December 3rd. We originally had it listed as a home meet, but we found out that conflicted with basketball. So December the 3rd, we're going to Pike Central, Indiana. We're going to wrestle up there. And then we'll be coming home on December the 7th for the first time ever, the inaugural Red Devil Duels will be here. We got some teams coming in, one from out of state, one from Indiana, one from Illinois, the rest from Kentucky. And that'll be December the 7th, be all day, you know, in the big gym. And then beyond that, it's like almost every Saturday through the winter time and a Tuesday and Thursday every now and then. We can weigh in 17 times, so we can go 17 different locations and compete up to that number. And then comes the regional tournament in the middle of February.
Well, there you have it. That's wrestling here on Red Devil Roundup. Thanks for watching.